Hadaka, Shime, Ichi. We typically practice this from a roundhouse punch. Someone throws a roundhouse punch, and I'm going to block with both hands. If the roundhouse punch comes around, I'm using my forehead to strike their forearm, not just putting my arm up. I'm rotating out, using the blade of my arm to attack. I'm attacking their arm. I'm not just blocking, I'm actively striking their forearm. With the other one, you can strike into the bicep. I particularly like to go into the shoulder itself with a nice palm strike. Block the arm, palm strike the shoulder. I get good control, not just the arm, but a little bit of the upper body as well. I also try to do this as preemptively as possible. As soon as somebody comes up like this, they bring their arm back and that fist is up, I'm not going to wait for them to swing. At this point, I know where we're going. So I go in and block and strike. If it's a little late, if they've already started swinging and their hands in front of their face and they're following through, it might help to actually fade away into the front. I'm still going to block and hit, but I'm not going to try to stop that force once it's at full force. I'll let it cool down a little bit and then follow through. Ideally though, I'm blocking early and taking advantage here. From here, I'm going to pull. As soon as I block, I grab. If there's no gi, I grab the wrist. If there is, I can grab the gi itself. I've already hit the bicep or the shoulder, so I'll grab the shirt or the gi, and I'm going to pull them forward. At the same time I'm pulling forward, my back leg, my knee is driving in. You see how I'm going? My knee's moving at an angle parallel to the ground. I'm not going upwards. A lot of people want to try to strike into the groin. That's fine. I mean, especially if it works. The groin and the bladder are very sensitive targets. The only problem is once my knee starts going up, my head starts going back, especially if I'm pulling towards me. So I end up in this position. Even if I land that, I'm now on one leg leaning backwards. They just got kneed really hard and they're probably going to fall on me. And we're both going back with me on the ground underneath. So to keep it simple and safe, I just strike low. I'm trying to take out their base leg as much as possible and hang right inside the knee. It's going to be depending on the relative height. You might get a little bit above or below, but ideally right to the inside of the knee. Blocking, grab, pull, and knee. I pull the shoulders forward and take out the base. From here, I'm going to use a roller, a mobility tool, something people commonly have at home that might help you practice any events. It's helpful for demonstrative purposes. This is going to be the neck and head. I block, I pull, and knee. From here, the biggest mistake people make is they reach over the head to try to grab. I'm not going to reach around the head. I'm going to move the head around my arm. And by that, my hand's already on the shoulder. I'm just going to strike and chop into the neck and then shoot my arm straight across. You can kind of see the head's up. Instead of reaching over the head, I chop and I shoot across. Just that snapping motion across the back of the neck, like I'm throwing a punch, snaps the head down a little bit forward. Remember, they're already coming forward because you're pulling and pushing. They're leaning forward, finish it off by snapping across the top. Then I come around underneath. The placement of the head is very important. A lot of people get the head popping out the side, so it's almost behind them. They got a nice headlock, but they don't have a lot of control of the head. The problem here is they might tackle me. They might get, kochigake, like wrapped inside of my leg and do some kind of a takedown. I want to keep their head in front of me, so the top of the head is right on my hip. It's going to do two things. It keeps them from getting around me. It also keeps them from going down because my thigh is keeping them from being able to go down. I also want to bend over their head a little bit. From here, if I'm too upright, even if I've got them over enough and keeping them from going down, especially with all that pressure on the neck, the head will often pop out here. So I'm bending over, kind of squeezing their head. The top of the head's in my hip, and I'm squeezing their head with my thigh and my ribs. And finishing off with a choke or a strangle. I think typically we practice this as a choke. The forearm is coming across the trachea and putting pressure here. I like to dig a little bit deeper, push in just a little deeper, and actually go right across the jawline. Pushes the head to the side, which gives a nice crank on the neck. It also allows me to put my pressure of the bone instead of across the throat on the carotid itself. Cut off the blood flow instead of trying to cut the air off. So again, blocking, two-hand block, pull a knee, chop into the neck, snap the arm over. Come all the way underneath. Make sure the head is not off to the side or right in front of the hip. I'm leaning over a little bit to trap it, coming underneath to reinforce. You can either just straight in and choke, or a little bit deeper, crank the neck, and come across the carotid. Hadaka, Shime, Ichi.